All right, we're back. Graveyard Shift Movie Podcast, episode number 88. This week, technically it was your pick, but it was Maverick's pick, and he left it up to a vote between the new Candyman and Prisoners of Ghostland. I think was the Nick Cage movie. And technically the Candyman movie won, so that's what we ended up watching. Maverick's drunk.
No.
So that'll be fun. But Candyman, and if you remember, we did the original Candyman. We didn't look at any of the sequels, but we did the original Candyman. And I don't remember what Tyler thought about it. I don't think he liked it that much. I remember you didn't like it that much. And I thought it was one of the best movies we'd ever watched. So that was what happened the first time. Second time around, I'm going to give this movie a 5.
Really?
Yeah, like, it just kind of in the middle. I probably would have given it a 6, and then I didn't like the ending. So I bumped it down to a 5. But yeah, it was just kind of, there was things I liked about it that made me give it this a 5, but it's just kind of meh. I'll probably never watch it again. Maverick, what are you gonna give this one?
Dude, I liked it, man. It was I'd probably give it like a 7. Like, it was solid. I liked the beginning, very good.
The beginning is probably my favorite part. Yeah.
Yeah. I liked the whole setup of the beginning. The end, I liked it. I did, but I feel like it could have had a little bit more work to it.
Yeah.
In the middle, kind of, it was slow, but it wasn't, if that makes sense.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, spoiler warning for Candyman 2021. We're gonna ruin everything about it. So if you've never seen it, you've been warned. First off, there was a big thing with this movie where I think it won an Oscar. I don't remember what for. It got nominated or something. And people were talking about like, oh man, another Jordan Peele movie is getting an Oscar or whatever. And it's like, but the thing is this isn't really a Jordan Peele movie.
Not really, yeah.
He was an executive producer, and he was one of 3 people who worked on the screenplay.
Yeah.
So, it was directed by a woman, and I think if they won the Oscar or got nominated, I think there was something where she was like the first black woman ever nominated or won an Oscar or whatever it was.
Nice.
So that's cool. But yeah, there was a whole where they tried to give Jordan Peele a lot, and people were like, "No, give it to this girl," So that was a thing. It's his production company too.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably more his production company than him itself.
Because his production company, they're during the intros, his production company has like the severed hand doing the spoon around the teacup from Get Out or whatever at the beginning. It's cool.
What was it like called? Like Monkey Paw Productions or some shit, if I remember correctly. I'm pretty sure that's what it said.
Did you notice
that's the name of it? No.
No.
Or am I tripping?
You think he named his production company Monkey Productions?
No, Monkey Paw, dummy.
Are you Googling what his production company is?
Yeah, it's fucking Monkey Paw Productions, you fucking asshole. You make me feel crazy.
Well, also, how the fuck did you even read it? It was backwards.
Drunk?
I guess. All that shit was backwards. I was like, what the fuck is this?
It looks fine to me. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's backwards as shit. They had it all the production companies and shit were like backwards. Which
oh no.
Yeah, that's you're dyslexic, Maverick. You could read it perfectly.
I am. A little bit, dude. A little bit.
But Which is weird because there's never an instance of like them having to do something backwards in the movie. That's what. As soon as I saw that, I
The
was like,
mirrors.
"Yeah, but the mirrors are just like that's how you see them."
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know that it was just seemed weird to me. Um, but yeah, the movie kicks off with, like I said, the production companies are backwards. So I was like, okay. And then the song at the beginning is the Candyman from Willy Wonka, which I was like, oh shit,
Candyman
the
can, which was
Candyman.
amazing. I fucking love that song.
Yep.
But they had like a little twist on the end of it where it was like starting to cut out and everything.
Yeah, yeah,
It sounded dope.
After that, we go to 1977, and we're at fuck, I can't remember the name of the projects. It was like Castle Green or something. But we're at this place, and this kid is playing with shadow puppets, where it's like these little cardboard, or I don't know what they're made out of, but you use shadows, and it's on the wall and stuff. And it's like a guy and a cop, and the guy's like, "Get on the ground," and the guy's like, "I didn't do anything." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Weird little thing for a kid to be doing.
Yeah.
The fuck?
Yeah, and right after that, he goes to do laundry. And so he leaves his apartment. He walks towards the laundromat, and as he's going, he passes by a police car, and like the one guy in the driver's seat is like, "Hey," and the kid turns around and he shows him this like wanted poster of this dude that's like, "Have you seen this man?" And the kid's like, and the guy's like, "All right," and so the kid just goes about his day. When he goes into the laundromat is like there's stairs down, so you go underneath the ground or something. Inside this building, so you're like in this basement area. He goes down in there, and there's this big gash in the wall, this big hole. And the kid's like, oh, all right, whatever, When he goes, he puts his laundry in and shit. And then as he's in there, he hears like a... That was terrible. That was supposed to be the sound of candy hitting the ground, but he hears this piece of candy hit the ground. He's like, what the fuck? And so he goes out of the laundromat, and he looks at the candy, and then he looks towards the hole, and you see for a second like a guy, and you're like, what? And then the next thing you know, the guy just like comes creeping out of the hole, and he's got a hook on his hand. And instantly you're like, oh, this is the guy they're looking for. And the kid like just starts screaming and shit, and the cops come running. And that's like the cold open to the movie. But like Maverick said, I really like that beginning where it was creepy as shit. Like this dead guy just coming out the side of the wall and stuff.
Pretty good, yeah.
I will say though, and I mean, technically, it's not really their fault, but probably a weak point in the movie was the children actors that they used. Where, like,
really?
the kid was like, ah! It's like, I don't know, that, and when he wants to play with his sister later, he's like, come on, let me play. Let me play, and it was just, I was like, oh, all right. So the cops come running in, and that's how the movie starts. There's another thing where, like, the opening credits, there's, like, it's buildings that I guess they shot from, like, the ground, so it looks like they're upside down by filming them up. And that, I just thought that was cool. And then we go down to modern time, and gay little Dicky is walking down the street with his boyfriend. That's how I will refer to that one white dude this whole podcast, as gay little Dicky, because that's what he looked like. And they're on their way to meet the dude's sister. They get there. We're introduced to the sister and her boyfriend or husband. I'm not sure. I think they were just dating. Who are and the boyfriend is like the main character of the movie. You watched that Watchmen show, right?
Yeah, he was dude.
Yeah, he was dude. I won't say who dude he was because that's kind of a spoiler. But also that show came out like 3 years ago, so if you haven't watched it, but we know which dude it was. And I was like, oh shit. He was also in a movie called Moonlight. Did you watch that one?
No, I don't think I did.
He plays like this gay gangster dude. It was like a drama. I didn't like it very much, but so we were introduced to them, and we find out that where they're living right now is where the old projects were that we saw in the beginning, and they had torn down and like built this place back up. And there's a whole bunch of stuff here about like, the white man made the projects, but then tore it down once he realized that he made the projects and all this stuff. There's also a line where like they say the projects was only made to then build up stuff around it to like fund other white people or something. And then the gay little Dickie is like, oh, you mean kind of like this place? And like all of them,
I was thinking that the whole time.
Yeah.
I was like,
and all of them look at him and he's like, ooh, and I was like, oh shit.
He's fucking right.
So anyway, then the chick's brother is like, can I tell you guys a scary story? And they're like, no. And he's like, I'm doing it anyways. So he like immediately turns off the light. He lights some candles. And the story that he tells them is about Helen, who was the main character of the first movie. And about how, and we get these, the shadow figures again. And he tells her about, she cut off the head of a Rottweiler and was doing snow angels in its blood. And all this stuff, but he changes the ending of what we know, because in his ending, he says that she kidnapped the baby and then ran towards the bonfire they had and was going to try to sacrifice the baby, but they stopped her, and then she went into the fire herself, which is very different from what we saw. So at first I was like, I wonder if they're just going to redo the story, or if like that's people got the story wrong. Also, I really like the shadows. They like, and it helps that I guess who they're talking about, but they look exactly who they're supposed to look like. Specifically, when they talk about the mom came home and her baby was gone, and that lady looked exactly like how she looked in the movie, where she has her little like dreads and everything. And I was like, oh man, these are really good. So anyway, he tells her the story, and they're like, get the fuck out of here, So they make him stop. Also, their main thing is Dr. Manhattan, spoiler, is like, well, his name's Anthony. I guess I'll call him Anthony in this movie. Anthony is like, ain't no way she killed a Rottweiler, and the dude's like, look it up. You can see for yourself. So that night in bed, he's laying there. He's like, damn, I guess she did kill a Rottweiler.
Yeah, he had looked it up on his phone.
Yeah. This dude, both of these people I think are painters, or they're artists. I don't know what the girl does. But the dude's like a painter, and he goes to his like art director who runs these shows that apparently his girlfriend is friends with, and that's kind of what got him in the door with him. And he goes there, and he has a new painting, and the guy's like, this is shit. It's stuff you've already done before, And he's like, I might have to take you out of the art show unless you give me something I can use. And so Anthony immediately just gives the guy what he knows he wants, where he's like, oh, I could do something about how white people bad, black people good, And the guy's like, oh, yeah, that's pretty good. He doesn't put it like that, but that's, he's like, white supremacy brings down the black community, and there was this whole thing. And the guy's like, oh, that's very progressive. And you can tell that Anthony knows that's what the guy wants to hear. So he's like, yeah, I'll do that. So he decides he's going to do a art project on the projects area where now he lives around and stuff, and where this Helen story took place. So he goes and he like hops a fence, and he's taking photographs of all these places. As he's doing this, a fucking bee flies up and stings his hand. And he's like, and the bee falls down dead. And then he stands there for a while a bunch of ants come over and just start immediately eating that bitch. He's like, all right, whatever. He leaves. He goes walking into this little projects area that's still there where some people live. And this is where he meets, I never even caught the name of this guy, but he ends up, like, I think he runs the laundromat that they go to a couple times in this movie. And he meets this guy, and the guy's like, hey, I'm Lloyd or whatever. I'm going to call him Lloyd from here on out. And he meets Lloyd, and he asks him, he's like, hey, I had heard about this story about Helen, whatever her last name was. And the guy's like, she went looking for Candyman. I guess she found her, you know? And he's like, who's Candyman? And the guy starts telling the story. Turns out that this guy is the kid from the cold open who saw Candyman. Candyman apparently is this killer dude, or I don't even know if he was killing people, but he was putting razor blades in the kids' candy. And so supposedly. And so this guy down here that he sees is who they're looking for. And he says that day I learned the true face of fear. And they hear all the cops running in when the kid screams. And the Candyman dude looks at the kid and, like, gives him a bunch of candy and lets him go up the stairs. And then the cops come pouring down. And he's like, the cops killed him there on the spot or whatever. And then he goes,
dude, like 20 cops running.
Yeah.
It was insane.
And he's like, yeah. And then a couple weeks later, more razor blades showed up in candy. So that guy was completely innocent or whatever. And to be fair, right? No reason for them to have killed that guy. Okay. But completely innocent seemed a little far fetched, because that guy seemed pretty sketchy. Where he's hanging out in holes in the wall with a hook and giving little kids. It didn't
seem like he was all there. Let's put it that way.
So it was only a matter of time. That's what I'm saying.
I don't know. They didn't have to do him like they did him.
Especially how many.
That dude was definitely something wrong with him.
Yeah, like especially how many there were.
No, I don't think he was. He was giving out candy. It wasn't him putting razor blades in the candy either, because after he died, they started again.
What if that other guy who then sent? What if it was his partner? There was two of them. What if he actually was doing it, but there was
two Candyman,
Candymans, Candymen, I guess.
Candymen.
Yeah. So yeah, he says the police killed him and all this shit, and he says that. That basically that's the Candyman now. Dude goes home, tells his girlfriend about the Candyman. And he's gonna do a project on Candyman and all this shit. And then he tells her about you say Candyman 5 times in the mirror or 5 times and he'll pop up. And he starts to do it, and he only manages to get to 4 until she's like, hey, knock that shit off, and she, like, stops him or whatever. Everyone in this movie doesn't believe this dude, but at the same time, they're like, even if I don't believe him, I don't want him to say it, because they're like, why even...
superstitious.
Yeah, which, I understand that.
For sure.
That night, they go to the big art show that they're having. And Anthony has made this art piece where it's a mirror that then you can open up, and it has like a bunch of his artwork about like black suffering and violence and all this stuff in here. And he's telling her this big art critic about like the project in the mirror, about the Candyman, and you're supposed to say Candyman 5 times in the mirror. And it's, it encompasses this whole idea he had. And she's like, oh, I can tell what the idea is. And basically, she's like, this whole thing is shit. Like,
yeah, she's shitting on it.
Yeah.
I was like, damn.
Yeah, she immediately just starts talking shit. Then she, like, walks away. So dude is all fucking mad. So he immediately just starts drinking. He gets all drunk up and goes walking over to where his girlfriend is standing, talking to the art director and the chick standing next to him, and then this other big dude. And the big dude is like, hey, I really loved your work or whatever. Where do you get those art pieces? You must have had to go to like some cheap thrift stores or something like this, And the dude's like, actually, I got him from a studio because I painted him, you goofy fuck. And I was like, oh!
Thank God, dude. I wanted to tell him off so bad.
Yeah. And
good God.
the art director like starts to laugh, and the dude's like, what are you laughing at, hyena? And the guy's like, what? And the art dude starts to say like some shit about how like you'd never be here if it wasn't for me. And then Anthony is like, shouldn't you be stocking up on morning after pills for your latest internship? And he's like, that wasn't fucking made up on the spot. You had that in the bank. And he's like, you're right, I did, bitch.
And he leaves. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit.
That was pretty good. So yeah, they go home. And we cut to that night where everyone's gone from the art studio, and all that's left is the art director and like the girl that's with him. And he's complaining about that guy and the girlfriend. And he's like, you know, he's done here. She needs to learn never to bring him around again. All this stuff. And the chick is like, maybe we should try it. It might be fun, saying Candyman into the mirror. And the dude goes, nah, we can't do it yet until we fuck. Like he said, like, I was like...
Weird. That dude was just weird.
Yeah.
He was just a weird guy.
And she comes over and starts to make out with him. And then she turns around, she's grinding on him, and she's looking in the mirror, and she starts saying Candyman. As she's saying that, it cuts over to Anthony, who's sitting at a mirror, or his own mirror, and there's a bee that's flown onto it, and he starts fucking petting it, and I was like, oh shit.
Well, I think it was inside the mirror, like on the other side of the mirror.
Oh, was it?
And he went to like touch it, but then realized it wasn't there. It was on the other side.
Uh-huh.
So I think it freaked him out.
And so then we go back to the couple and the girl, they say Candyman 5 times in the mirror, and the girl's like, see, nothing happened. And then it's where we see their backs, and then in the mirror we see Candyman just creep up on them and cut the girl's throat. And I was like, oh shit. A girl falls down, big gash in her throat, she's dying. The dude starts going, is this real? Is this real? I was like,
what? I told you that dude's a goofy, man. He's weird.
He's something. He looks over and he sees Candyman standing there, and Candyman in this movie is pretty creepy, actually, because he's just always in the shadows, and he's always doing like he sounds like a fucking zombie,
like a grumbling.
Yeah,
it's weird, but I liked it.
Yeah, and so he like cuts the this projector that's playing this video, and then the guy notices that the projector is actually over on the left where he's looking. So there's a mirror here, and that's how he sees Candyman. He can't see him by just looking at him. So the only way we see Candyman is whenever they pass by a mirror.
Which I like that.
Yeah.
That wasn't in the first one, was it?
No, but to be fair, most of the time when people in the first one saw Candyman, he just like crept up behind him and killed him immediately. The only one who ever like saw him multiple times was the main character. Also, they kind of throw that rule out at the end of the movie, so fuck it, I guess.
A little bit, yeah.
So yeah, so he gets up, he starts hauling ass towards he starts doing Sonic, where he's like, gotta go fast, as he's running. And I was like, alright. He runs to the front door, it's locked, which he has the keys for. I don't know why he didn't think to bring them, but whatever. And so he's at the front door, and we see Candyman creeping up behind him in the door. And then before he gets, he cuts his Achilles, and then he drags him over to where the girl is, and he lays him next to him. And then he goes to kill him, and it cuts to daytime. In the daytime, we see that Anthony, his hand is getting real fucked up. It's getting like...
throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
Like, it starts to get just worse and worse.
And he's like, that's weird, you know? Meanwhile, his girl is showing back up to the art place, and she walks in and finds the people dead in front of Anthony's art piece. That morning, they go and they watch the news, Anthony and then his sister and her brother. And on the news, they say that the people were murdered in front of Anthony, whatever his last name is, art piece, Say My Name, and and then they're like, we'll have more at 6, and so he turns off the news, and he's like, they said my name. He's like, that's pretty cool.
And he's like, it's nice to be recognized.
Yeah.
And then the other two are just looking at him like he's crazy.
Yeah. And he's like, what? Oh, it's terrible. I'm just saying it's cool, because they mentioned his name and they mentioned the piece that he made too. So it's a double whammy. So like the girlfriend just gets up and like walks away. That night, the girl has a nightmare about finding the dead bodies in the art museum and apparently her dad's suicide.
Which comes out of fucking nowhere.
Yeah, she creeps up on her dad, who also looks like a painter. It looked like he was painting some shit up in the attic or wherever this is. And he's like sitting on the window, and she walks up and she's like, Daddy? And he's like, did you know your daddy could fly? And she's like, no. And he's like, well, I can. And he's like, ah.
He yeets himself out the window.
Yeah. And that was, they never really bring that up again, but that was pretty weird.
Came out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Had me confused.
Confusion. She wakes up. She's like, oh. She looks over towards the bathroom, and Candyman's standing there, and he's like, doing the fucking thing. And she's like, ah. But then she looks, and it was just like another, I guess, nightmare or something.
It's a dream. Yeah, she wakes up again.
Yeah. But conveniently, where Candyman was is now where her boyfriend is sitting. I was like, ooh, and so she like goes in and she's like, hey, I had a nightmare. And he's like, I did too. And she's like, what was it about? And he doesn't tell her. He like kicks her out of the bathroom and he stays in there. And it was like, oh, okay, what's going on? The next day, Anthony goes to the library where he finds a bunch of old tapes that Helen had recorded. And she recorded a bunch of them throughout the first movie, if you remember. So I was like, oh, the fucking tapes. I don't know if this is actually her saying it or if they re-recorded it. But yeah, so he's listening to her tapes and she's talking about everything about Candyman and all this shit. He gets in an elevator to leave, and the elevator is completely made of mirrors inside. And I was like, this is
not good.
Also, if all this stuff was happening and he kind of knew it was happening at this point, if the elevator opened and you saw all mirrors, wouldn't you be like, I'm taking the stairs?
Like, that's not good.
Yeah. But he gets in, and of course, immediately the thing like breaks as they're going down. So he's like, what the fuck? So he starts messing with the alarm to alert people that the elevator's broken down. Behind him, a piece of candy hits the ground. And piece of candy. He turns around. He's like, oh, shit. He picks it up and cuts his thumb. And he's like, what the fuck? He unwraps it, and there is a razor in his candy. And he's like, oh, shit. Next thing you know, blood from his thumb drops down onto the ground, and then blood from up top drops down onto him. And he looks up, and above him is the Candyman, all bloodied. It's clearly the dude who was in the laundromat, too, who's all bloodied and beaten up from, like, the cops. And is sit up there staring down at him or whatever. And the dude's like, what the fuck? Then the lights cut out in the elevator. And I don't know what was happening. It sounded like, I guess, the glass was breaking. Someone was trying to break out of the glass. Where you just hear, like, this crunching, like, type of noise.
Yeah.
I thought it was gonna, like, a bunch of candy was falling or something. Like, I didn't know what it was. But when the lights come back up, the elevator has gotten to the bottom floor, and there's a group of, like, kids there waiting to get on. And the dude's like, oh. And so he just, like, grabs his shit and he leaves.
Yeah, actually, everything's normal. Like, he wasn't on the ground. Like,
yeah.
What the fuck?
A lot of this movie is, and I believe they did it in the first one with Helen, too, where a lot of this movie is, like, is Anthony just going crazy and killing people, or is there actually a Candyman, around? Because he keeps seeing himself as Candyman and all these things. So I can't remember. You know what? I think did you watch the Invisible Man from like a year ago? The remake
I
of.
didn't. I watched clips of it, but not.
Okay, I think that Invisible Man movie, there's a lot of that where they're like, is this girl actually just going crazy or is it a killer or whatever? But yeah, so a lot of this movie is like, who's really doing the killing here? The dude, Anthony, when he gets home, he's painting a bunch of shit about Candyman. And as he's doing this, he gets a phone call from that art critic that he met at the art gallery earlier. And she wants him to come, like, visit for dinner or whatever. He tells this girl that he's going out. She's like, hey, you need to make it back. I'm going out to eat with this other art critic who only comes to New York, like, once a year or wherever they're living.
Very important.
I think they're in Chicago, actually. And she's like, so I need you. Yeah, she's like, I need you here. And he's like, don't worry, I'll be here. And she's like, don't fuck this up. And he's like, I won't. And she's like, no, don't fuck this up for me. And so I was like, oh, damn,
It's a good line.
Yeah. So dude goes to visit this art critic. And basically, since now his art piece is super famous because it's part of this murder where people were slaughtered in front of it and it's all this stuff, she's like, oh man, I really like your art,
Yeah, it's totally switched up.
Yeah, she's like, I understand the meaning, I understand everything about it, and he's like, oh really? So then he's like, you know what? Fuck you. If you really want to understand it, then you should say it. You should say Candyman.
Go in the mirror and say Candyman 5 times.
And I was like, God damn, this dude's putting a death sentence on people. I was like, oh shit. And so she's like, I gotta go to the bathroom. So she gets up, goes to the bathroom, and is like looking in the mirror. Anthony, as he's sitting there, his hand is like getting worse. He looks down, he's like, ah shit, and he like plucks off a piece of skin or something. And so he goes and like wraps it up, and then he goes to find the lady, and as he enters the hallway, down the hall from the door is an identical mirror. Like the door is like this weird where, oh my god, my finger's so weird looking. It's the door the door has like this weird pattern where it's not a whole door, it like cuts off. And so the mirror is like that too. And so he looks in the mirror, and in the door behind him, he sees Candyman, and he's like, what the fuck? So he turns and looks, and he's not there, and then he turns back, and Candyman's right in front of him. But then the guy starts, like, moving his hand, and him and Candyman are doing the exact same movements. And so once again, it's like, Candyman is him, he is Candyman and shit. And there's bees in the window again, and he's like, what the fuck's going on? Behind him, the door opens up, and the art critic's like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, no. He's like, I don't know. But as he's saying this, he looks in the mirror again, and this is another little subtle spot, is behind the art critic in the bathroom, you see there's a door, and the Candyman is like, and he just peeks out and looks at her.
A medicine cabinet window or some shit.
Yeah.
Mirror.
And and he goes back in, and that was a really good thing. And the dude's like, I gotta leave, So he leaves. He makes it to dinner with this girl and the art critic. As they're there, they get phone calls that the girl that Anthony just left was murdered. And her husband is like the prime suspect. And Anthony immediately is like, I gotta go. And he goes running. And I was like, that is very suspicious, Anthony. You need to learn. Yeah. Anthony leaves. He goes back to the dude from earlier, who was the kid from the beginning, and he's like, I've learned all this shit. I think I brought Candyman back, all this stuff. And so the dude is like, Candyman's been around, forever. And he's like, we need to talk about, the first Candyman. So we go back to the 1800s, where the first Candyman from the movie that we watched, was born, Tony Todd, where, like we said, he was a painter, and he was painting people, and then he painted this, like, white dude's daughter, and they fell in love, and she got pregnant, and so the town chased them, and they fucking got him down, and they cut off his hand, stuck a hook in there, put honeycomb on his body so bees stung him up, and they burned him, and all this shit. And he was the first Candyman. Now, here's the thing, Maverick, that I don't understand about all this, right? Is if he was the first Candyman, okay, and they're saying that Candyman has been a bunch of different things, and then they say that in 1977, this new Candyman was born, who was the guy down the laundromat, then why in 1997, or whenever that first one came out, did the girl spawn the original Candyman and not the one who is the Candyman now, who has already been Candyman for 30 years at that point, or 20 years?
I don't know. The dude in the laundromat was not a Candyman, by the way.
He was not. Yeah, I know. What do you mean?
He just knew Candyman, like of Candyman. He wasn't a Candyman. He goes through and tells you how. Like,
not him. I'm talking about the guy who got killed by the police in the laundromat.
In the laundromat.
He was Candyman.
Yeah, a Candyman.
A Candyman.
There's a bunch of Candymans.
Yeah.
And the dude who owns the laundromat goes through and tells you.
Yeah.
Some of them, I think, or maybe all of them.
Really, he tells you about this one, and then he tells you about the original, and then he never mentions the other ones. Like, but then randomly, at the end of the movie, we'll get to, we see there's like 4 or 5 Candymans, and it's a whole thing. But basically, in this thing, Candyman isn't just one man. Candyman is like a legend of people who were victims of like this type of crime and stuff. And it's a way to always remember them and what happened to them and how it's still happening to people and shit. And I will say it was a pretty good scene, how he was explaining it, how it's like, it's still happening. It's always happened and we got to remember it. And I was like, God damn. All right. Yeah. So back at home, the girlfriend shows up to look for Anthony, but instead of finding Anthony, she finds his paintings that he has of all these Candymen, and she flips out. She's like, what the fuck's going on? What are you doing? All this shit. He is like, all right, listen, I'll tell you, but you're going to think I'm crazy. And she's like, no, I won't. You know, we're artists. We don't think each other's crazy. And he's like, I think I brought him back. And she's like, who? And he goes, Candyman. And she's like, you're crazy. Like, immediately goes back on what she just said. And she doesn't believe him. And he's like, I'm telling you, I brought him back. All this shit's happened. So she goes, you know what? Candyman isn't real. I'll prove it to you. She goes walking over to this mirror they have. And she starts to say the Candyman deal. But the guy just picks up a paint jar and throws it at her, at the mirror.
Breaks the mirror, yeah.
And breaks the mirror. And then he like picks up another smaller mirror and breaks that. And he's like, no, you can't do it. And so she just goes and like runs out. She ends up staying with her brother and Gay Little Dicky at their apartment. And the brother immediately starts talking the most shit about the boyfriend. Like how he's bummy, ain't got no job, artist, fucking like immediately is like just roasting
Well, that's
him.
how he was when he went over there the first time.
Yeah, but you know, it was just, you know. Also, then at the same scene, Little Dicky is like gonna go to the bathroom, and he's like, "Here, you need to take care of Lisa," and it was like he named his blunt. I was like, what? Like, does he name every blunt he rolls? I was like, what the fuck is this? So, whatever. So he hands her the blunt. She starts smoking. Dude's like, you can stay here as long as you want, as long as you don't try to summon Candyman. And she's like, who would be stupid enough to do that? Immediately cuts to high school girls. And
I think it said they were in college.
Okay. Here's the thing, though. This part of the movie had no reason being in the movie. It was just kind of thrown in here.
Yeah.
Like, it's a funny little joke where she's like, who would be dumb enough to do that? And then you cut immediately to this. But at the same time, it's like, why was this here? So there's like 5 of these girls. And the one girl is like rubbing her lipstick to make two eyes on the mirror, and then she kisses it, and I was like, you dirty bitch. I was like, do you know what's been on this mirror? Like, what are you even...
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then she's like, have you guys ever heard of Candyman? And then we immediately cut to, like, all five of them standing in the mirror about to say Candyman. If they're college students, by the way, then I feel better about saying that one girl that had, like, the shaved head was a baddie. And I was like, goddamn. Shout out to shaved head girl. She's also the first one that dies in the second.
Her name was Boof.
Was her name Boof?
That's what they were calling her, Boof. And I was like, ooh. Boof is bad weed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, why? Why is that your name?
Listen, man. I'm sure there's some wise tale about it. So they start doing the Candyman thing. And they get to like 3 Candyman. And then, like, the windows on the bathroom opens up. And so the one girl's like, I'm out of here. And she immediately leaves. And I was like, all right,
Yeah.
that's, you know.
Well, Boof tries to leave, I think. But they're like, no, you stay.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, they say Candyman like 3 times. The window opens and scares them. And that other chick leaves.
Yeah, but Boof stays. Boof is a bad bitch,
like,
you know?
Yeah.
So she stays. They do it 5 times. Nothing happens. They're like, we're going to leave. As they leave... this black girl walks into the bathroom, and the group is all white girls, and then they like bully the one black girl that walks in. I was like, yeah, all right, you know. And they're like walking by, and they're like kicking the stall she went into and shit. I was like, what's going on? They get to the door, but the door is locked, and they're like, you broke the door, bitch. And they keep trying to open it. Boof is then like, I forgot my fucking mirror. I don't know what she said, right? So she goes to, like, walk back. As she's doing this, her one friend is putting on lipstick in her mirror. And we see that she's like, what the fuck? And she closes it, and she's like, guys, I think we should leave. But Boof has already walked around the corner at this point. Next thing you know, you start hearing fucking... like, that sort of stuff.
You hear struggling.
Yeah. And then they hear water or something hitting the ground. And so they all peek under the stall
in the bathroom, yeah.
And eventually this blood falls down like the thickest blood I've ever... It was like syrup coming down. I don't know.
It wasn't the best looking, I'll give them that.
Yeah. So this blood falls down. They're like, oh my god. Immediately they start all getting attacked by Candyman.
Slaughtered like lambs.
We don't see this happening. We go in the stall with the chick in there. And she just, like, can see, like, feet on the ground, all this.
She has headphones in.
Yeah.
A headset on. She's listening to music.
Yeah.
Try not to, because they were bullying her. Uh-huh. So she put her music on. So she's listening to music and then just hears, like, screaming. And it's them getting fucked.
And so, this all happened outside. Down on the ground, though, is that lady's lipstick mirror. So it's open. So we zoom into that, and we see the one girl crawling away, and then we see Candyman, like, floating towards her, and the girl's like, you know?
The floating Candyman, was that in the first one?
I don't think so. I think he was always standing.
It was wild. I don't know if I liked it or not.
Yeah.
I mean, it was cool. I'll give him that. He looked like he was flying like SpongeBob did.
Yeah. There was that one part in the original Candyman, if you remember, where he kills that guy in the police station, and then he's like, and he goes flying out the window through the back and shit. And
the college girl scene in the bathroom.
I
know they were bullying that chick because the whole like backstory of that was apparently there was a party and she drank too much and threw up.
Yeah,
so they were
had a hangover.
On video. And they were bullying her because of it, kind of. Why would he kill them? I know you're supposed to feel...
It said name.
I know, but I thought he was supposed to be, like, a good guy.
No, he's a bad guy.
Really? Just murdering people?
Yeah.
Because
they're very weird about the story.
He's like the Avenger of the Hood, like...
Yeah.
Right?
But it's not... Yeah, but it's not because he'll just kill anyone that says his name. Like, he's not a very good Avenger. Or, apparently, people who won't say his name. Because, well, that happens later. The whole Candyman saga is kind of weird about the rules and what, you know. Also, it's like everyone has to say Candyman in this movie for something to happen. And the first one, the lady says Candyman once, and he's just always around. Like, he just keeps following her. So that happens. Anthony wakes up and there's glass in his hand, and his hand at this point is like all just black, like dying. He even like is pulling off his nails and shit.
He's not looking good.
No. And so at this point, he's like, maybe I should go to the hospital. And I was like, you think? Like,
yeah, he should have went to the hospital a long time ago.
Yeah, like, as soon as, like, your hand even gets a little bit of scale, I'm like, that's not normal. I should probably go to the hospital.
Yeah.
So he goes to the hospital, and a nurse walks up to him and says, welcome back. And he goes, what? And she goes, oh, I saw you were born here. Welcome back. And he goes, no, I was born on Southside. And she's like, no, you were born here. And as soon as she said this, I was like, oh my God, is he the baby from the original? And then we immediately cut over to the mom from that movie opening up the door. And it turns out that this kid is the baby that was kidnapped in the first movie. And I was like, holy shit.
I thought it was a little older than that. Like, I thought it'd be, it was like more time had passed. I didn't think it would, because if he was the kid, then he was definitely a lot younger than I thought he would be.
I don't know.
If that makes sense.
Well, when did that first one come out? I keep saying 97, but
I wasn't judging it based off the first one.
Yeah, 92. So then this kid would be 30. Or like 29. Yeah. So that's probably right. I bet you that dude's probably like 37 or something. He's probably older than what he's supposed to be playing.
His mom was younger than him. It was insane.
Well, let me tell you, if that's the girl from the first movie, she is looking great for like, because 30 years almost have passed since that movie's come out. Wait. Yeah, almost 30 years have passed since that movie came out. So she's looking fantastic if that's still her. I wasn't sure because her hair is different. But they did look about the same age, didn't they? But yeah, he goes and talks to his mom. And she's like, oh, come in, you know? He goes, hey, I've been doing stuff about, or I've learned about this story about Helen, whatever her last name was, about this baby and how she conjured the Candyman. And his mom's like, shh. She's like, no.
Yeah,
she's like, don't say that. Yeah. Then there's this great little bit where she goes crawling over to him and she's like, I'm sorry. I just wanted you to be happy. That's why I said you were born over here, you know. That's where we live. The majority of your life is over here, but you were born there and you were there for a while. And she's like on her knees in front of him. And he's like, I need to know the truth. And there's like a pause for a second. And then she goes, I thought that she took you at first. And the guy's like, oh my God. And he like leans back as soon as, and like, it was just really like how the guy wanted to know the truth. But as soon as he finds out that that really is the truth, he's like, oh my fucking God, you know, he can't believe it. I thought that was good. Yeah, so she says, you know, we thought that she was crazy, she stole you, all this stuff. But then, you know, we found out it was Candyman, and he was going to burn you. He had his own mission for you. But she went in and saved you and sacrificed her own life and all this stuff. She says that she thought that Helen had ended it that night by, you know, killing Candyman. But I guess she hasn't. Yeah, this is when I was like, well, how the fuck, why isn't it the what I mentioned earlier, how the guy from 77 was the Candyman that this girl was running into, even though that the whole story with Helen was like the Candyman from the 1800s, the OG thought that she was like his girlfriend that was pregnant, and he was like wanted her to come with him and all this stuff. But anyway, the dude's like, I gotta get out of here, you know? We go over to the girlfriend, and she shows up with her brother to like get her stuff from the apartment because she's leaving. But Anthony isn't there, so she starts calling around the places, and they haven't seen him. And so she's like, where the fuck is he? So she looks on her little pad where she's crossed off everybody's names, who she's called. And next up is the guy who works at the laundromat that Anthony had said that he's been talking to and stuff. My voice. So she goes to the laundromat, and she goes into like the office room, and the door's locked, and she's like, hey, let me out. And then we cut to another flashback of this kid who was in the laundromat in the beginning again. So the grown-up guy. And apparently, after the thing happened at the laundromat, this is where I talk about his sister's locked herself in her room. And he's like, hey, I want to play. Let me play, you know? And so he's like walking around, and we hear in her room, she starts doing the Candyman thing. Oh my God.
Oh, goddamn. My bad.
Sorry. She starts doing the Candyman thing. And I was like, oh shit. And she gets to like number 5, and then you just hear like a thud on the ground. And the brother's like, let me in. And he opens up the bathroom or wherever she's in. And he can't open it because her body's in the way. And he's like, what the fuck? And he looks up, and Candyman is there all bloody, staring at him, smiling in the mirror. Really creepy looking. And I was like, oh shit. And then we cut back. And that kid who's grown up, who's been in the movie, has now knocked out Anthony's girlfriend and has kidnapped that bitch. And so
Yeah.
I was like, okay. She wakes up in this like church area type thing. I think it's a church that she's in. And dude is, I guess, a bad guy. Also, there's a part before where he's like, finally, we have a witness. And then if you watch his mouth, he's like,
it's weird, yeah.
Yeah. And she wakes up, and dude is there. And I'm not sure what is going. I don't know if like he works for Candyman and he's trying to keep the legend going, or if he wants to make a new legend so that one who killed his sister is forgotten about, or what the deal is. But this guy is evil, so he's making a new Candyman. He has Anthony here, who at this point, his whole like right side of his body is all honeycomb, I think is what it's supposed to be. Just all like torn up. And he's like, I'll make you into the new legend. And he cuts Anthony's hand off and starts sticking the hook into his hand and shit. And Anthony is so like catatonic at this point, I guess, that he's just sort of like, ugh. Like he doesn't even hardly move when all this is happening. The dude starts talking about, you know, there's going to be a new legend about Anthony the painter who went crazy and slaughtered all these people and, you know, and tried to kill his girlfriend and, you know, she lived and you're going to be the witness to all this and all this shit. As he's saying this, the girl's tied down by duct tape. She just broke out and he looks back and she's like, I'm out of here.
She's gone.
Yeah. She goes down these stairs. She's underground again. She has this flashlight. Her light goes out. She sees the guy following her with his own flashlight, but he turns it off. And then it comes back up, and he's like, ah, and he jumps at her. They scuffle for a minute, but then she kicks him off and is able to get up top to where the outside is. So she gets up, immediately goes into like this abandoned apartment, and the guy comes up and follows her in there. He goes walking in, and now she's behind him, and she picks up like this big muffler or something.
Some big piece of metal, yeah.
Yeah, and she goes to hit him, but then the next thing I know, it like she's like, ah, and she drops it. And I was like, what? And then I don't know if like this piece of metal broke off in her hand, but somehow she gets something sharp, and it didn't look like a knife. And so
I think it was that pen she had.
Okay,
no?
maybe.
I thought it was the pen.
So the guy turns around and she's like, ah, and then she just like, it just stabs him and he falls over and then she just gets on top of him and just keeps stabbing the shit out of him. And
over and over again. He's dead.
yeah, and she keeps going until eventually Anthony is at the door and he's like, I think he's dead. And she's like, huh. And she gets up and she like stands there and Anthony comes walking over to her and he like falls down. So she's holding him. And she's like, come on, you got to get up, you know. Next thing you know, the cops pull up. Okay. And the cops walk into the room and they go, put your hand up. Bah, 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 bah. Like,
instantly.
Instantly.
Insane.
Keep in mind, okay, I get what they're going for, but Anthony is on the ground this.
Out. He's out.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure he was dead by the time they got in there.
Yeah.
And they're going to try to say that, like, the police are open.
Walk in and just started blasting, dude.
Yeah,
It didn't make any sense. So I was like, what the fuck is this?
They're all white dudes.
All white cops, like the whitest cops.
Yeah. You know, because Chicago doesn't have any black policemen, you know. So they get the chick, they handcuff her, they put her in the back of the squad car. The one cop gets in the driver's seat and immediately starts going, oh, it's a shame about, you know, all that stuff happened about your boyfriend going crazy and the going after what's-his-face, and he recognized him because we were after him, and so he opened fire and killed him, you know. And she's like, oh, and he's like, oh, that's not how it went? Well, maybe it's you were an accomplice and you're going to spend the rest of your life in jail, you know, and all that shit. And so then she's like, I'll tell you whatever you want, but can I see myself in the mirror? And he's like, what the fuck, I guess, you know? So he turns the mirror to her, and she starts doing the Candyman thing. But the thing is, like, if she's in this predicament, why wouldn't she be like, Candyman, 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 Candyman? Like, immediately before the guy can, like, she does it so slow. Like, the guy could have at any point been like, all right, that's enough, and turn it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she keeps doing the Candyman thing, and she gets to 4. And then we notice that the guy who's also in the mirror is like, Candyman, what the fuck is that? So he's the one that actually says the 5th one.
Yeah, he had turned it, but it didn't show it, did it?
No. And so then the next thing you know, one cop comes walking out of the apartment with his throat cut. And then Candyman starts going towards the other cops, and they're shooting at him. They see him. That's what I meant by they just throw that rule out the window about you can't see the fucking Candyman. So they're shooting Candyman. It doesn't do anything, so he kills them. He comes walking over to the car that she's in, and we see that it's Anthony who's Candyman. And he goes over to the driver's seat, and he's like talking shit to the guy. He's also locked the doors at this point. Like, the driver can't get out. So he's talking shit to him. Anthony is like walking past the windows. And this is when I say he starts and you see Tony Todd. And then it goes to like the guy from the laundromat who started the movie. And then there's like another Candyman. I don't remember. And then it's like the little kid who, you know, saw all this stuff happening in the beginning. And so I was like, what the fuck is, you know. But he gets around the car. And then the locks open up. So the driver, instead of just driving away, is like, I'm out of here. And he gets out. I was like, all right. He goes running. The girlfriend gets out of the car and goes walking around the corner to where the cop went. As she goes around the corner, we see that Candyman has grabbed the cop and is killing him. And he
slicing and dicing.
Yeah.
Baby.
So he kills the cop. And he's like floating and surrounded by bees and everything. And the girl's standing there at the fence watching. And Candyman floats over. And now he is back to the original Candyman from the first one. Tony Todd, the OG. And he goes, tell everyone. And that's how the movie ends. Is with the cops pulling up. And the girl sort of just standing there like, what the fuck? And that's the end of Candyman 2021. I kind of wish that they would have made this movie like the guy was crazy. It just started killing people, even though there's like this whole other element. But like movies do that a lot, where they try to make it like, oh, is this guy crazy? But then at the end they'll always be like, nah, he had it right. But I wish they would make a movie where it's like, nah, he was crazy. He was a guy killing people, you know. But I don't know when we'll ever get one of these. This movie had a budget of $25 million, made a box office of $77 million. So
That's not bad.
no, I bet you they probably thought it was going to be more. But Candyman is kind of an obscure movie to remake, in my opinion.
It is.
Like, I really like it, but I don't know how many people like are like, oh yeah, Candyman, I remember that one. Also, Candyman has the misfortune of being called Candyman, and when you hear Candyman, you don't think it's gonna be like a drama narrative horror movie. You're like, oh, that's gonna fucking be dumb. It's like a killer Candyman, That's what I thought forever when I heard.
There's definitely a lot dumber horror movies out there.
Yeah,
like throwback Killer fucking Tire.
What do you mean, rubber? Please. Hey, listen. I'll fucking shaky you, bitch. What are you gonna do?
Oh, damn.
What was the other thing I was gonna fucking say? There was something else. God damn it. You've doomed me. I don't know. I can't remember. Also, yeah, remember this this movie didn't have anything to do with Clive Barker. If you remember, the first one is based on a novel that Clive Barker had written, and he like helped make them with that one. So also the novel doesn't have anything to do with like race relations, if I remember right. It's more about like because it's an English characters in that one, and I think it's more based on like how much money people make or something like that. So maybe one of these days I'll read it and I'll see what's up about it. Let's do best of worst of for Candyman. My best of. I think you're gonna say the beginning, and that's what I want to say too. But I'll change it, and I'll say that my best of is the morning after pillars joke, and him being like, "You bet I did,
that
bitch."
was a good one. Him telling him off. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and I like that. Worst of, even though it was, I get it's supposed to be like cool, I guess that they're like kill, but the college kids getting killed, there was no reason for that being in the movie. It was just kind of thrown in there, like I don't know.
100% right.
Yeah, so I'll say the college kid scene where they're just getting killed. It just kind of didn't mean anything. Maverick, what was your best of worst of for Candyman?
Best of was the elevator scene, man. That thing was pretty good.
Yeah.
And like we said, the beginning was pretty good.
Uh-huh.
I like the intro too. The intro's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Worst of, even I like the kills, but the college girls' bathroom scene just didn't have a place in this movie. It seemed like
just thrown in there.
Pretty much.
Also, I do appreciate how creepy Candyman is in this movie, because the first one he was never really creepy. He was just like, he would kill people, and he was like trying to get that girl to come live with him in the afterlife or whatever. But he wasn't creepy to look at. This Candyman was like creepy everywhere he was. He was all bloodied and beat up and moaning and everything. So
yeah, the moaning thing was weird.
Yeah. So I appreciated that they made Candyman creepy. Like I said, I don't know if he's creepy, and I think there's Candyman 2 and 3 that we never watched. Maybe I'll watch them for an overtime at some point, but don't bet on it. But yeah. So I think that's about it for Candyman. Next week, it's my pick. And we're going to watch a cult classic, if you will, that I don't really even consider horror, Maverick, but for some reason, people say it's horror. But yeah, they're remaking it, I think, either next year or the year after it's coming out, where Peter Dinklage is playing the main character, and I don't know how that's going to work. Especially after you see this movie, you'll be like, how the fuck are they going to do Peter Dinklage as the... But we're going to check out The Toxic Avenger from, I believe, 1985 might have been when it came out. But yeah, Toxic Avenger. It's something, Maverick. Buckle in for this one. There's a lot of lot of crazy shit.
What's it about?
Basically the synopsis is it's about a nerdy kid who gets bullied at school until one day he's pushed and he falls into like this nuclear toxic goo where his whole body is decomposed and then built up, and he's like a monster thing, and he goes around murdering the people who basically killed him and a whole bunch of other stuff. So look forward to that. There's a scene in here that is very famous for how fucking like graphic it is. So look forward to that. All right, besides that, I'm not sure if any overtimes will be coming out. I don't have anything planned right now, but there might be. Some shorts should be coming. Gaming channel in the description below. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I think that's about it. Maverick, got anything you'd like to add?
The movie was pretty good. I would recommend. I was going into it thinking it's going to be shit, but
I did too.
I don't like that.
Yeah, it was better than I expected.
Oh, for sure.
So, I guess maybe your next pick will have to check out that Ghostland movie. But
little Nick Cage.
Little Nicky Cage.
Little Nicky Cage.
Yeah, but we'll see. All right. Well, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next week for The Toxic Avenger. So long.